On the night of January 8, 2026, a man named Ayola did something so terrible that it destroyed his entire family in less than 1 hour. He didn't just kill his wife, Ganiat, by stabbing her 5 times in front of their 3 children. He also tried to murder a helpless blind old man and a young girl using a bottle of deadly poison. By the next morning, Ayola himself was dead, leaving 3 small children with no parents and a neighborhood filled with nightmares. This is the true story of a man who let suspicion turn into a deadly madness that no one saw coming until it was far too late. The trouble started in a place called River Valley Estate, which is in the Ojubga area of Lagos State, Nigeria. It was a normal Thursday evening around 8 p.m. and most people were inside their houses getting ready for dinner or resting after a long day of work. In one of the houses, a woman named Ganiat was arriving home. She was a mother who worked hard to take care of her 3 children because her husband, Ayola, was not always around. Neighbors said that Ayola was often away for a long time, so Ganiat was the one who kept the home running. But on this specific Thursday, Ayola was home and he was acting very strange. Nobody knew that he had been planning something evil for hours before Ganiat even walked through the door. While the children were playing or resting, Ayola was busy setting a trap that would end in blood and screams. Earlier that day, Ayola had sent his own daughter on a very specific errand. He told the little girl to go out and buy a bottle of insecticide, which is a strong chemical used to kill bugs. The child did not think anything was wrong because families often use these chemicals to keep their homes clean. She went to the shop, bought the poison, and brought it back to her father. Ayola took the bottle and hid it in his pocket, waiting for the right moment to use it. At the same time, there was a young girl in the same compound who worked as a housemaid for a blind elderly man. This girl was in the kitchen making a fresh pot of stew for the old man's dinner. Ayola approached this girl 3 different times. First, he asked her if Ganiat was seeing other men. The girl told him no, that Ganiat was a good woman who treated the blind man like her own father. But Ayola did not want to hear the truth. He was already drowning in his own dark thoughts. The second time Ayola approached the maid, he tried to give her money. He told her to take the cash and run away from the house immediately. He told her that he was going to do something very bad that night and he didn't want her to be around when it happened. The girl was very brave. She refused the money and said she had to stay and take care of the blind man. Since he couldn't bribe her to leave, Ayola changed his plan. The third time he came to her, he asked her to go to his own apartment to sit with his children while he talked to the blind man privately. The girl agreed, thinking it was just a neighborly chat. While she was away, Ayola took the insecticide out of his pocket and poured the whole bottle into the pot of stew. He wanted to kill the blind man and the girl so there would be no witnesses to what he was about to do to his wife. When Ganiat finally entered the compound, she had no idea that her husband had turned into a monster. Within minutes, the sound of her screaming filled the air. She was screaming for help, begging for her life, and crying out in pain. The maid, who was still in Ayola's apartment, heard the noise and ran outside. She saw Ayola standing over Ganiat, hitting her with what looked like heavy punches. She counted 3 punches before Ayola turned and ran away into the dark night. But when Ganiat tried to stand up, the maid saw the truth. It wasn't punches. Ayola had been holding a sharp knife. Ganiat was covered in blood with 5 deep holes in her body. She managed to crawl toward the gate, begging the neighbors to save her. They rushed her to the hospital, but she was losing too much blood. Even in the car, she kept asking, "What did I do to him? Why did he do this to me?" 5 minutes after getting to the hospital, Ganiat died. The death of Ganiat sent a wave of shock through the entire Ojubga community. While the doctors were pronouncing her dead, her brother arrived at the hospital only to find his sister's body being moved to the mortuary. It was a scene of pure heartbreak. The police were called immediately and they began to look for Ayola, who had disappeared after the attack. Back at the compound, the young housemaid returned to the blind man's house and noticed a very strong chemical smell. She thought the cooking gas was leaking and started checking the stove. She didn't realize that the smell was actually the insecticide Ayola had poured into their food. If she had served that stew to the blind man, they both would have died right there. It was only after Ayola's daughter mentioned the errand for the chemical that everyone realized he had tried to commit a mass murder. Ayola's face was soon all over social media. The police declared him a wanted man and asked everyone in Lagos and surrounding states to look for him. People were angry and scared. How could a father do this to the mother of his children? How could he try to poison a blind man who had never hurt him? The search lasted all through the night. While the police were looking for him, Ayola was running through the bushes and fields trying to escape the consequences of his actions. He knew that what he did was caught by witnesses. He knew his wife was dead because he had watched the life leave her eyes while he stabbed her. But instead of turning himself in to face the law, Ayola decided to take the easy way out. He was a man who chose violence to solve his problems, and he chose violence one last time. Before we continue with the final moments of Ayola's life, please take a second to subscribe to Tremendous Crime in History. We share these stories not just for entertainment, but to bring awareness to real-life dangers and to honor the memory of victims like Ganiat. By subscribing, you help us grow a community that stands against domestic violence and supports justice. You need to subscribe because we bring you the most accurate, researched details of crimes happening right now in 2026, helping you stay informed and alert in an unpredictable world. Hit that subscribe button now and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Now, back to the story. On Friday morning, January 9th, 2026, less than 12 hours after he killed his wife, Ayola was found. He wasn't in a house or a car. He was found lying in an open field in the Sobo area of Ogun State. People who found him said he was gasping for air and his body was shaking. He was in terrible pain because he had swallowed the rest of the insecticide he bought the day before. He was trying to kill himself because he was too afraid to go to prison. The people who found him called for help and he was rushed to a nearby hospital. But just like his wife Ganiat, the doctors could not save him. Ayola died in the hospital, gasping for breath, just like the woman he had murdered. The police found his phones, his ID cards, and the empty bottle of poison next to his body. The tragedy of this situation is that Ayola died without ever explaining why he did it. He left behind a big mess for everyone else to clean up. The police found evidence that after he stabbed Ganiat, he actually went back into the house for a moment to try and wipe up some of the blood. He wanted to hide what he did, but there was too much blood to clean. He realized he couldn't hide it, so he ran. This shows that he knew exactly what he was doing was wrong. He wasn't confused or dreaming, he was calculating. He tried to hide the evidence. He tried to kill the witnesses with poisoned stew, and when all of that failed, he killed himself. This left the police with a closed case, but left the family with thousands of questions that will never be answered. In the comments below, write down the name of the chemical Ayola used to poison the stew. We want to see who is paying attention to these important details. The aftermath of the crime was even more painful than the night of the murder. When the news spread that both Ayola and Ganiat was dead, the focus turned to their 3 children. In just one night, these 3 children saw their father attack their mother, saw their mother bleed to death, and then learned that their father had killed himself. They were left with no parents, no home, and a memory that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Family members and neighbors began to talk about what life was like inside that house before the tragedy. It turned out that Ganiat had been suffering in silence for a very long time. This was not the first time Ayola had been violent. He was a man who used his hands to hurt the person he was supposed to protect. One neighbor came forward and told a story from August of the previous year. She said she had visited Ganiat and saw horrible bruises all over her neck. Ayola had beaten her so hard that the marks stayed for weeks.
The neighbor told Ganiat that she needed to leave. She told her that a man who bites and hits will eventually do something worse. Ganiat actually listened to the advice and started looking for a new place to live. She found an apartment and was ready to move out with her children. But then her sisters who lived in other countries started calling her and told her to stay. They told her that for the sake of the family name and the children, she should give Ayola another chance. Ganiat was a kind woman who wanted her children to have a father, so she stayed. That decision, made out of a desire to keep the family together, ended up costing her life. This is a very important lesson for everyone watching. Sometimes the people around us give us advice that sounds good, but they are not the ones living with the danger. Ayola's sisters were far away in another country. They didn't see the bruises or the anger in Ayola's eyes. They wanted to save the reputation of the family, but they didn't realize they were asking Ganiat to stay in a cage with a tiger. When someone shows you who they are through violence, you must believe them the first time. Ganiat had the chance to leave, but the pressure from her husband's family kept her in that house until January 8th, when it was too late to run. It is a reminder that your life and your safety are much more important than what people think about your marriage or your family status. If you know someone who is going through a hard time in their home, please share this video with them. It might be the wake-up call they need to save their own life. Don't forget to like this video if you think more people need to hear Ganiat's story to prevent this from happening again. The story of Ayola and Ganiat is a tremendous crime because it didn't just hurt one person, it destroyed a whole family tree. The 3 children are now being cared for by relatives, but they will always carry the weight of that night in Ojubga. The blind old man and the maid survived because they were lucky, not because Ayola had mercy. He was willing to kill them just to cover his tracks. As we close this story, we must think about the value of life. No argument and no suspicion of cheating is worth a human life. Ayola thought he was being a strong man by taking control, but he died a coward in a field, alone and in pain. Ganiat died a victim of a system that tells women to endure abuse until it kills them. In conclusion, the events of January 2026 in Lagos serve as a dark warning. We must look out for our neighbors and we must support those who are trying to escape violent homes. The tremendous crime here wasn't just the stabbing, it was the silence and the pressure to stay in a dangerous situation. We hope Ganiat finds the peace in death that she didn't have in her final months of life. We hope her children find the strength to grow past this nightmare. Thank you for watching this deep dive into history's most chilling events. Remember to subscribe to Tremendous Crime in History for more stories that reveal the truth behind the headlines. Stay safe, stay alert, and we will see you in the next story.